You ever get laughed at by a whole backyard full of people, with your wife standing right there, and feel like every chuckle's a nail in your dignity? Chad was holding court, again. My wife Lindsay's coworker. Technically her friend, but really? He was the clown she brought around to light up every room and dim me out in the process. And then Roger gets up on this rickety ladder. Chad boomed, pantomiming me wobbling. And I swear, this dude's got the fan blades mounted upside down, like he's inventing reverse tornadoes. The group howled. It echoed. I caught the snort from Marla, our neighbor. Even Greg, my mechanic buddy, gave a forced chuckle. But the laugh that cut deepest? Lindsay's. Not loud, but unmistakable. She had her arm looped through Chad's, giggling like it was harmless. I stood 5 feet away, holding a paper plate and 3 deviled eggs, trying to pretend my ears weren't burning. I stepped forward. Funny story, I said flatly. Let's tell the one where I rebuilt the porch alone while Chad stood around giving Yelp reviews on my hammer swings. Chad blinked, smile still plastered on. Hey man, it's just jokes. Yeah, I said, stepping closer. Why are all your jokes about me being dumb, clumsy, or useless? That's not teasing. That's targeted. Lindsay tugged my arm gently, smiling tight. Roger, please. Not now. Don't do this. Don't do this. I repeated, eyes locked on her. You're laughing with a guy who humiliates your husband. You think that's okay? She rolled her eyes. You're being too sensitive. There it was. That word. That old, tired, weaponized word. My blood lit up. Too sensitive. I repeated, my voice low but sharp. That's your fallback, isn't it? When I call out something real, you just slap that label on it and pretend I'm the problem. Roger, she hissed, stepping in closer. This is a barbecue. A fun night. You're turning it into a drama scene. No, I said, louder now, cutting through the music and conversation. I'm stopping the damn rerun. People were watching. Chad looked uncomfortable now, finally. Good. I turned to him. Let me ask you something, Chad. You ever make a joke about Greg's job? Or Daniel's truck? Or is it just me you like taking swings at because you think I won't hit back? Chad put his beer down. Man, you're really overreacting. I took a step closer. Say that again. He hesitated. I could see it, the flicker of something behind his eyes. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by the guy he painted as a joke. Lindsay grabbed my wrist, her nails digging in slightly. Stop it, Roger. You're embarrassing us. No, Lindsay, I said, finally turning my full attention to her. You embarrassed me the moment you laughed. The moment you chose him over me, again. A stunned silence settled in. The cicadas outside still buzzed, but everything else felt frozen. And in that silence, Lindsay blinked, then smiled. That was the part that broke me. A little smirk. Like she was still in control. I think you should go cool off, she said softly, through clenched teeth. Before you say something you can't walk back. I took a breath so deep it hurt. I looked around at our guests, our life. My house, my grill, my backyard. And I realized I wasn't home anymore. The air was thick that night. Houston thick, where you feel like you're breathing through warm syrup. I rolled the window down halfway, letting the wind slap against my face as I drove. The silence in the truck was loud. Just the soft rumble of the engine and the click of the blinker at every red light. Lindsay hadn't texted. Not once. I hadn't expected her to. She'd probably stayed behind, laughing, sipping wine like nothing happened. Maybe even standing beside Chad, pretending my reaction was the problem, like I was some outburst she had to explain away. I'd seen that look in her eyes before. That tired of you look. I stared at the taillights ahead of me, but my mind was nowhere near the road. It wasn't just tonight. It was that night at dinner, 2 months back. We were out with Chad and some others from her office. He'd made some crack about my work boots looking like I'd stolen them off a scarecrow. Everyone laughed. Even the waitress chuckled. I remember Lindsay leaned over to him and whispered something, grinning. I couldn't hear what she said. Didn't have to. It was the way she looked at him, like he was the fun one, like I was the stiff. And then there was bowling night. He walked past me to grab a drink and muttered, "You throw that ball like it owes you money." I let it go. I let it all go. Even when Lindsay snorted loud enough for the whole lane to hear. I told myself it was harmless. That maybe I was overthinking it. That maybe Lindsay just liked someone with a little edge. But the truth had been there the whole time. I just didn't want to see it. And then came game night, just a few weeks ago. We were all sitting around the table playing Cards Against Humanity. Chad played some disgusting combo about trailer park marriages, and winked right at me when the punchline landed. Lindsay doubled over laughing. I remember how I laughed too. Quiet. The kind of laugh you give so no one sees how much it stung. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, knuckles pale in the glow of the dash. 3 times. 3 separate nights, I'd let it go. I told myself it wasn't worth starting a fight. That Lindsay didn't mean anything by it. That Chad was just an idiot with bad timing and worse jokes. But tonight made it clear. It wasn't just jokes. It was a pattern. It was public humiliation disguised as casual fun. It was Lindsay using me as the butt of the joke, then scolding me for not laughing along. I wasn't being sensitive. I was being disrespected. And it was happening with her blessing. I pulled into our driveway, engine idling for a moment longer than it needed to. The porch light was off. Her car still gone. She hadn't come home yet. Or maybe she had, and left again. Either way, it didn't matter. I stepped out, the night air sticking to my skin. Crickets chirped, a dog barked somewhere down the block, and the faint echo of fireworks testing early for the 4th of July popped in the distance. Everything felt quiet. Too quiet. I stood on that porch for a while, staring at the front door. My own house suddenly looked unfamiliar. I wasn't sure what the next step would be, but one thing rang louder than anything else. This ends now. The door creaked open to the familiar scent of lemon floor cleaner and lavender candles. Lindsay's Friday routine. She wasn't home yet. I flipped the light on, dropped my keys into the bowl by the door, and just stood there in the dim hallway. It was strange. Everything looked the same. Throw blanket on the couch, dishes drying in the rack, her sandals neatly lined by the door, but the place felt foreign, like I'd stepped into a house that used to be mine. The TV screen glowed soft blue from the living room, paused mid-scene on some sitcom Lindsay always rewatched. She liked comfort TV, predictable laughs, no surprises. I sat down, stared at the blank corner of the room where sunlight used to hit just right in the mornings. And I waited. 30 minutes later, headlights swept across the wall. The door opened. Lindsay stepped in, holding a bottle of rose and a half-wilted bouquet someone had probably handed her out of pity. She stopped cold when she saw me sitting there in the half-light. "Oh," she said, setting the bottle on the counter. "Didn't think you'd beat me home." I didn't answer right away, just watched her move. Careful, like she wasn't sure if she was walking into a storm or a conversation. She gave me a forced smile. "Look, about earlier. Can we not blow it out of proportion? Chad's just being Chad." I stood up slowly, every word measured. "Do you know how many times he's made me the punchline, Lindsay?" She sighed, digging into the fridge. "He's just trying to be funny. It's his thing." "No," I said, stepping into the kitchen, voice lower now. "It's your thing too. You laugh every time. You let him." She turned, annoyed. "Oh, come on. You're acting like I sick him on you with a script." "You don't have to," I said. "You just have to laugh." Her face twisted. "So now I can't even laugh?" "Roger, you've been weird lately. Like everything offends you." 3 times before tonight, I said, ignoring her bait. "Dinner, bowling night, game night. You laughed every time. You never said a word to stop him." She shook her head, opened the rose, poured a glass like this was just another Tuesday. "Because it's not that deep. You're being dramatic." "Is that what I am to you now?" I asked. "Dramatic?" She took a sip. "You're making this into some grand betrayal." "It is a betrayal," I said, stepping closer. "When your wife stands beside a man who belittles you in front of your friends, again and again, that's not nothing." Lindsay rolled her eyes. "So what? You want me to fight Chad every time he makes a joke? He's part of my work group, Roger. He's harmless." My jaw tightened. "No, he's not. And you know it." Her tone flattened. "You always take everything so seriously. He makes fun of everyone. He made a joke about my hair once and I laughed." "You laughed because you wanted to," I said. "Not because you were targeted. You weren't humiliated. That's the difference, Lindsay." She folded her arms, the wine glass still dangling from her hand. "So what is this? You want an apology? Want me to grovel? You want me to cut Chad out of my life because you can't take a joke?" I paused. "No," I said quietly. "I want you to see what it's doing to us." Her lips pressed into a line. "I see a man who's insecure and looking for a reason to start a fight." I nodded slowly. And right there, in that little flick of her tone, that cold detachment, something inside me shifted. Like a switch flipping. It wasn't anger anymore. It wasn't shock. It was clarity. I stepped back, let the silence settle, and walked toward the living room. She followed. I sat down again, leaned into the couch cushions. You know, I said calmly, I used to think I just needed to be more patient, tougher, that if I didn't react, maybe eventually you'd notice it was hurting me. Lindsay stayed standing, glass still in hand, watching me with guarded eyes. But you never noticed, I said. Or worse, you noticed and didn't care. She scoffed. You're reading too much into everything. It's not like I'm sleeping with him. I didn't flinch, didn't rise to it, just nodded once, slowly. I never said you were. The TV flickered in the background. The sitcom still frozen mid-laugh. It felt cruel now. Too bright. Too fake. Go to bed, I said finally, voice calm. We're done talking for tonight. She stared at me like I'd just slapped her. No lecture. No argument. That's it. I nodded. She opened her mouth, closed it. Then without another word, she turned and walked down the hallway, her footsteps sharper than they needed to be. I sat there long after she disappeared behind the bedroom door, the glow of the paused TV reflecting off the empty wine glass she'd left behind. And I realized this wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a performance, and I was ready to stop playing my part. Terrence handed me a cold beer without saying a word. He didn't have to. The look on my face probably told him everything. We were out in his garage, late evening. Just the two of us. Old rock music low on the radio, the scent of engine grease and cut plywood in the air. He kept that space like a shrine to peace. Organized chaos, cluttered but sacred. You look like a man who's been chewing on nails, he finally said, easing into a busted camping chair. I cracked the beer open. More like swallowing M-hole. He raised an eyebrow. That bad? I let out a breath. It's not just tonight, T. It's been building. And I finally saw it for what it is. Terrence didn't interrupt. He was good like that. Just leaned back, eyes on me, letting the silence do the asking. I told him everything. The barbecue, the jokes, the way Lindsay had laughed along, and how it wasn't the first time, or the second, or even the third. When I finished, he exhaled slow. Man, that ain't teasing. That's humiliation. And she's handing him the mic. I nodded. Exactly. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. You want me to go with you to Chad's place? Knock on that smug smile of his. I'll do it. You say the word. I smirked a little, just enough for him to see I appreciated it. Nah, I said. That's not who I want to be. That's who he wants me to be. Some angry blue-collar husband who throws fists because he can't win with words. Terrence studied me for a moment. You're serious, he said finally. You're done playing along. I nodded slowly. Yeah. I've spent too long trying to fix things Lindsay doesn't even think are broken. She keeps pretending Chad's just a funny guy. And if I speak up, I'm too sensitive. But I'm done explaining why I deserve respect. There was a weight to my voice I hadn't felt before. Not just anger. Something heavier. Sharper. Clearer. Terrence gave a low whistle. Well, I'll be damned. You're not broken. You're just waking up. We clinked bottles. I looked around his garage, the tools, the half-finished workbench, the projects he'd start and stop as life allowed. There was something peaceful about it. Honest. I'm not looking for a fight, I said. But I'm also not staying quiet. Not anymore. He nodded. Then what's next? I swirled the beer in the bottle, watching the foam settle. I'm not sure yet, I said. But whatever it is, it's going to be on my terms. Terrence raised his beer. To terms, then. And to being a man who remembers who the hell he is. We drank to that. And for the first time in a long while, the anger didn't feel like a fire I was trapped in. It felt like fuel. I waited until Saturday morning. Lindsay came into the kitchen wearing that faded college sweatshirt she always wore when she wanted things to feel normal. She opened the fridge like nothing had happened, like the past week hadn't split the ground beneath us. I poured my coffee, set the mug down, and said it calmly. No heat. No raised voice. Chad's not welcome in this house anymore. She blinked, hand frozen on the orange juice. What? I looked right at her. You heard me. She laughed once, short and sharp. You're not serious. I didn't blink. Dead serious. She closed the fridge, leaned against it with her arms crossed, that familiar tilt of her head like I was being childish. You can't just ban people, Roger. He's a friend. I nodded slowly. Then he can be your friend somewhere else. Not in our house. Not around me. You're being paranoid. No, I said. I'm being clear. Her jaw tightened. Over a few jokes? No. Over a pattern. Over you standing beside someone who disrespects me to my face and expecting me to laugh about it. She shook her head, smiling in that condescending way that used to stop me from speaking up. You're overreacting. Maybe, I said. But I'd rather overreact with dignity than sit quietly while you keep handing him the lighter. She rolled her eyes, turning away like the conversation was beneath her. God, you're so dramatic lately. You sound like one of those insecure men on podcasts. I stepped forward, not aggressive, just steady. This isn't drama, Lindsay. It's a boundary. You can laugh with him all you want. You can go to dinners, bowling nights, office parties. But not here. Not in our home. She didn't say anything at first. Just stared at me like she was trying to decide if I was bluffing. You think I'm going to pick a fight over this? She asked finally. I took a sip of coffee. No, I think you already did. Her lips parted, like she wanted to fire something back, but nothing came. That silence said more than anything she could have said. She turned on her heel and walked out of the kitchen, the mug she'd poured for herself still sitting empty on the counter. I stood there, letting the quiet settle. I didn't feel good. Didn't feel vindicated or powerful. I just felt done. Done playing the nice guy who eats disrespect with a fork and smiles through it. Done being the quiet one who lets things slide for the sake of peace. Because peace that costs you your self-respect? That's not peace. It's slow erosion. And I was finished being worn down. It had been a long shift. I'd stayed late patching a busted water line at the Southside complex. By the time I clocked out, dusk was already settling in. One of those heavy Texas dusks, where the air hangs like wet cotton and the sky turns that smoky purple behind power lines. I took the long way home. Didn't feel like rushing back to the tension waiting inside. But halfway down Oak Ridge Avenue, something caught my eye. Lindsay's car, parked across the street. I slowed, turned off the radio. The street was quiet, mostly office buildings and small rentals. But one house stood out, beige with blue trim. Chad's place. My stomach went cold. I pulled over a block down, turned the engine off, and sat there for a moment, staring at my hands gripping the wheel. It didn't have to mean anything. People stop by friends' places all the time, right? But it was 7:30 on a Thursday. No birthday party. No work event. Just her car. In his driveway. I got out. Didn't slam the door. Didn't make a sound. Walked up the sidewalk slow. Quiet. Like I was hunting something I didn't want to catch. There was a side gate. Unlatched. I slipped through, my boots nearly silent on the grass. The house was mostly dark except for the soft yellow glow leaking through the living room window. Curtains pulled lazily. Not all the way. Just enough space to see. I stopped 5 feet from the window. Took a breath. Then looked. And there it was. Lindsay. On Chad's couch. Her shoes were off, legs tucked under her. She was laughing. Laughing in that easy, real way I hadn't seen in months. And Chad, sitting next to her, close. Too close. A hand resting casually on her knee like it had been there all night. They weren't kissing. They didn't need to be. The comfort in their body language said it all. This wasn't new. This was routine. The world went still. I didn't feel rage. Not right away. Just silence. The kind that presses against your ribs and makes it hard to breathe. I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out my phone, and hit record. Slowly. Deliberately. I held it steady, capturing the whole scene. Her touching his shoulder, him brushing a hand along her back as he stood to grab something from the kitchen. They looked like a couple at home. And I was just a stranger standing outside the glass. When I had enough, I stopped the recording and lowered the phone. I stood there for another minute. Maybe 2. I don't know what I was waiting for. Some sign. Some crack in the moment. But it never came. I turned and walked back the way I came. Quiet, slow, detached. At the truck, I sat behind the wheel, stared straight ahead, and let the engine idle. I didn't cry. I didn't punch the dashboard. I just drove. Back home, I transferred the video to my laptop. Then onto a flash drive. Then again to the cloud. 3 copies. No mistakes. After that, I opened the kitchen drawer, pulled out the folder labeled Important Docs, and started filling out the divorce paperwork I'd downloaded a month ago, but never had the heart to touch. I filled in the date, the names, the grounds. There was no more ambiguity now. No gray area. Only truth. Only proof. And silence. God, that silence. The house didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like a waiting room in someone else's tragedy. I packed a small overnight bag, just enough to get me through the next few days, and left it by the door. I didn't say a word when Lindsay came home. Didn't ask where she'd been. Didn't need to. She kissed my cheek out of habit. I let her. Maybe for the last time. Maybe just so I'd never forget how empty it felt. She poured wine, laughed at some show, and I sat there, nodding at the screen, already gone. Already done. I handed the flash drive to my lawyer the next morning. A clean office. Neutral walls. Everything smelled like dry air and expensive ink. He plugged it in without a word. Watched the video, arms crossed, face unreadable. After a minute, he sat back. Wow, he said. Just that. I said nothing. He clicked through the footage again. Chad. Lindsay. That casual intimacy that screamed louder than anything physical could. This is clean, he muttered. No date stamping needed. The context speaks for itself. No audio, but it doesn't matter. It's tight. Undeniable. I nodded. He looked at me then. The way someone looks at a man who's just stopped pretending to be okay. I've seen a lot of people bring me dirt, he said. But this is calm. Surgical. I didn't correct him. It wasn't revenge. It was insurance. He slid the drive into a labeled envelope and tucked it into a folder marked initial filing. I'll start the process, he said. Give it a few days. We'll serve her formally. You want to wait till after the holiday weekend, or? I shook my head. Sooner's better. He nodded. All right. We shook hands. I left his office and sat in my truck for 10 minutes, just staring at the building, letting the fact settle in. I'd done it. It was in motion now. No turning back. By the time I pulled into the driveway that evening, the sun was already ducking behind the rooftops. The porch light was on. The blinds were closed. I stepped inside, and there she was, Lindsay, in the kitchen, wearing a summery dress I hadn't seen in months. Soft music playing. The smell of garlic bread and chicken parmesan in the air. She turned when she saw me. Smiled like this was a Tuesday night, and not the aftermath of betrayal. Hey babe, she said. I thought we could do dinner together for once. No phones, no distractions. I stood there, keys still in hand. She kissed me on the cheek. Again, soft, automatic, practiced, and gestured toward the table. I even lit the candles, she added, like that made it a peace treaty. I looked at the table. 2 plates. Wine glasses. Silverware polished like a magazine spread. You cooked? I asked, voice flat. She shrugged. Felt like it. I didn't sit. Just moved to the sink, washed my hands, stared out the window for a moment, trying to get a grip on the spinning sensation in my gut. She was already rewriting the story, already pretending nothing had happened. The wine bottle popped. She poured for both of us, humming some melody she probably thought made her seem relaxed. Domestic. Thought we could do a little weekend getaway, she said casually, handing me a glass. Just us. Reset, you know? Reset. I stared at the rim of the glass. At her hand, perfectly manicured. Steady. She was playing a role, and she was good at it. I met her eyes. What brought all this on? She smiled. Just felt like we needed it. I miss you. You've seemed so distant lately. The way she said it, soft, concerned, almost sounded sincere. Almost. But I knew better now. Distant, she said, as if it hadn't been earned. I've had a lot on my mind, I replied carefully. She reached across the table, touching my hand. Whatever it is, we'll get through it. We always do. I nodded, took a sip, let the silence sit a little longer than was comfortable. She was trying to keep me calm, trying to lull me back into the old rhythm. Pretend everything was fine, normal, domestic, safe. But it wasn't. This wasn't a home anymore. It was a chessboard, and I'd already made the first move. You sure you're good with this? I asked, dropping my duffel bag near the old recliner in Terrence's basement. He gave me a look like I'd asked if water was wet. Man, stop it. This place needed a second life anyway. The basement was half finished, exposed beams, old sports posters, a workbench in the corner cluttered with tools. It smelled like cedar and insulation, but it was quiet. Undisturbed. Mine. I nodded. Thanks again. No need, he said, cracking a beer. We'll tell her I needed help remodeling down here. You know how to swing a hammer. It'll sell. We shared a long look. I wasn't hiding. I was preparing. That weekend, I packed light, essentials only. Told Lindsay that Terrence needed help converting the basement into a rentable room. She barely blinked. That's sweet of you, she said, pecking my cheek. We should still go over cabin rentals when you get back. I said I'd think about it. She sent me 2 links that night. One with a hot tub, one with lake views, both with king-size beds. I didn't reply. Instead, I stared at the screen, watching the dots appear and vanish as she tried to text more. A heart emoji finally came through. And that was the moment I realized she still had no idea. Not a clue. Not about the flash drive. Not the lawyer. Not the filing in progress. She was playing house in her head while I was dismantling ours, piece by piece. Terrence handed me a beer and tossed a few power tools onto the floor. We'll make noise on the weekends. Toss some wood around. Keep up appearances. I smirked. You were always good at cover stories. He took a sip. Just make sure you don't go soft. She's still baiting you. Guilt, charm, flirting, it's all part of the same net. I didn't say anything. Just opened the email app again, checked the thread with my lawyer. Draft reviewed. Filing in motion. Will notify when delivery is complete. 3 days, max. Until then, I played the role. I went home a few evenings, grabbed shirts, boots, bills. Lindsay never questioned it. She even joked once, I miss my handyman. Terrence better not be stealing you away for good. I laughed, played along, but each time I stepped inside that house, I felt more like a stranger. The photos on the walls, the beach trip, our 5th anniversary, the dinner with her parents, they weren't lies exactly, but they weren't true anymore, either. They were artifacts, relics of something we both stopped believing in a long time ago. And yet, she kept texting. Outfits she was thinking of wearing. Memes I used to laugh at. A video of the dog at the neighbor's place chasing its own tail. All lures. And I responded with silence. Or one-word answers. She didn't notice. Or she refused to. I wasn't sure which was worse. Terrence had an extra cot, an old speaker system, and a fridge full of leftovers. It wasn't glamorous, but it was solid. Real. No pretending here. Just plans. I'd come home from work, shower off the sweat and drywall dust, then sit at the folding table with my laptop, reviewing documents, timelines, court notices. Piece by piece, it was coming together. And with every hour that passed, Lindsay's hold on me loosened. She didn't even know it yet, but her silence would come, louder than mine. Just not today. The smell of charcoal and cheap fireworks was thick in the air. 4th of July at Marla and Greg's place had always been a neighborhood tradition. Flags everywhere, burgers stacked high, kids running through sprinklers in red, white, and blue swimsuits. And I showed up like nothing was wrong. Khakis, clean boots, button-up shirt, smile in place. Lindsay lit up when she saw me. There you are, she said, wrapping her arms around my waist like we hadn't spent the last 2 weeks on different planets. Told everyone you were still helping Terrence. I nodded, kissed her cheek. Let her pretend. The grill hissed behind us. People were scattered across the yard, red cups in hand, laughing in little groups. And then, like clockwork, Chad appeared. Same sunglasses. Same cocky walk. Same smirk that made you want to rinse your face in ice water. He walked over with a plastic plate piled high, glanced at me, and grinned like we were old drinking buddies. Well, look who finally escaped from under a workbench, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Terrence give you visitation hours? The laughter rippled out from him. Not everyone, but enough. I smiled, then walked right up to him. And before anyone could blink, I grabbed him by the collar with one hand and lifted him half a foot off the ground. The plate clattered to the grass. Roger. Lindsay's voice cut through the air, sharp with panic. Chad's sunglasses slid off his face. He squirmed, wide-eyed now. Whoa. Hey man. Joke, it was just a joke. I didn't shout, didn't shake him. I just looked him in the eye and said, calm as morning steel. I told you once. You don't mock me again. Ever. And then I dropped him. He hit the ground like a sack of laundry, stumbling back, dirt on his knees. People gasped. The music cut off. Someone dropped their drink. He scrambled to his feet, face pale, mumbling, man, you've lost it. This dude's gone nuts. I stepped forward once more and gave him a clean, hard punch to the stomach. Not rage. Not revenge. Just punctuation. He dropped again. You think you're funny? I asked. You think disrespect is charm? He didn't answer. He was coughing too hard to speak. Then crawl out of here like a man who ran out of jokes. He did. No one helped him up. He limped across the lawn and vanished around the corner of the house, face red and hands shaking. I turned to the crowd. Everyone was frozen. And that's when Lindsay stormed toward me. What is wrong with you? She screamed, tears in her voice now. You humiliated him. You just assaulted someone at a barbecue. I smiled. Slow. Lindsay stepped back a half-inch, confused. You want to talk about humiliation? I asked. She opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak. I reached into my back pocket, pulled out a small black tablet, and tapped play. The video lit up on screen. Her, Chad, the couch, the window, the laughter. The stillness that followed was deafening. Someone gasped. Lindsay froze, mouth open, hands trembling. I held the screen out, just long enough for everyone nearby to see what I'd already lived through. Then I tucked it back into my pocket. This marriage, I said, is over. Lindsay's face crumbled before the screen even dimmed. The people closest to us, Greg, Marla, two of her co-workers, backed away slowly, eyes wide, mouth shut. No one knew where to look. A few turned toward the house. A few more pretended to check their phones. Even the kids quieted, like the air itself had gone cold. Roger, she whispered, stepping toward me, hands raised like I was a stray animal she could still calm. Wait, please. We can talk about this. I didn't move, didn't flinch. She glanced around, seeing all the eyes on her now. Her voice softened, urgent. Don't do this here. Please. Not like this. But I stayed silent. That silence, it did more damage than shouting ever could. You blindsided me, she said, her voice trembling now. If you were upset, you could have said something. I did, I said. One sentence. That's all it took to shut her up. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. You ambushed me with a video in front of our friends. You embarrassed me with months of silence and smirks and lies, I said, calm as stone. Consider this the sequel. Her hands dropped. You don't understand, she said, louder now. It wasn't what it looked like. It was. We were just comfortable. I offered. She blinked. Familiar? Laughing like no one was watching. She said nothing. I stepped closer. No hotel room. No apology. No late-night confession. Just a couch and lies and one long stretch of pretending I wouldn't see. Roger, please. You saw me unravel, I said. Every time he made a joke, every time you laughed with him, you watched me shrink and did nothing. Her eyes welled up. I didn't mean to, but you let it happen, I said. You liked it. You liked being the one who got to roll her eyes at this sensitive husband. Don't do this, she whispered. We can fix it. No, I said. You can't fix what you kept breaking on purpose. She reached out again, trying to touch my chest, but I stepped back. Just a foot. Just enough. It was enough. Her hand dropped. The silence stretched. Please, she said again, a cracked whisper. We can go away. Just the two of us. Get back to who we were. I almost laughed. Almost. But I didn't want to give her even that. Instead, I pulled a folder from the inside of my jacket. Simple. Neat. Cream-colored. I handed it to her. Her hands trembled as she opened it, her fingers flipping through the pages like they might say something different if she turned them fast enough. This is a divorce, she said, voice shaking. No, I said. This is clarity. She stared at the last page, the line where she'd need to sign. The backyard was still deathly quiet. A few people had walked inside, but most stood frozen, unsure whether to leave or witness history. Lindsay clutched the folder like it might dissolve in her hands. You're really doing this, she said. I already did, I said. I can change. I looked at her, looked straight into the eyes of the woman who once danced barefoot in the kitchen with me at midnight. The woman who once whispered that I was her calm place. But she wasn't whispering anymore. She was pleading, and I wasn't her calm place. I was her reckoning. I hope you do change, I said softly. Just not with me. Her eyes broke first, down to the ground, shoulders hunched, defeated. Where am I supposed to go? She asked, voice breaking now. Anywhere you want, I said, but not home, not with me. The wind picked up. A firework cracked somewhere in the distance, late to the party. And just like that, she was done. She turned away, arms folded around the folder like it might keep her warm, and walked across the yard, head down. No one stopped her. No one spoke. I watched her go, not with anger, not even sadness, just peace. Terrence came up beside me a few minutes later, handed me a drink without a word. We stood in silence as the sky lit up in bursts of red and white. I thought I'd feel more, I said. You do, he replied. It just hasn't caught up to you yet. I nodded, and I let the night carry it all away. It was a Saturday, the kind that sneaks up on you, all sunshine and birdsong and no need for clocks. I was back in the garage, but this time, not with a beer in my hand or a weight in my chest. This time, I was grilling ribs on a borrowed smoker while Terrence yelled at someone for putting cornbread where the socket wrenches should go. 3 of his buddies were over. 2 of mine. Folks I hadn't seen in years. It wasn't a party. Just good people, good music, and enough laughter to remind me what it felt like to want to be around others. Man, these ribs smell like sin, one of Terrence's cousins said, fanning the smoke toward his face like it was cologne. I smiled. Give it 5 more minutes. Don't get greedy. The radio hummed out some old blues track, the kind my dad used to play when washing his truck on Sundays. Everything was easy, simple, honest. Hey, someone said behind me. You hear about Lindsay? I turned slightly. It was Mark. Used to work with Lindsay before the promotion. He looked sheepish. I raised an eyebrow. No. What about her? He scratched the back of his neck. She moved back in with her parents. Out near Tomball. Heard she's working 2 jobs now. Trying to keep up with child support for her sister's kids. Guess things got messy fast. I nodded once. Not cruel. Not smug. Just noted. Sounds rough, I said. Yeah, he replied. Most people stopped talking to her. The whole thing kinda spread. Chad left town, too. Company moved him to San Antonio after the HR mess. No one misses him. The grill popped and sizzled. I didn't say anything for a moment. Just reached for the tongs and flipped the ribs. You good, man? Mark asked after a beat. I looked around. The open garage. Terrence laughing with a mouthful of potato salad. The warm air wrapping around us like a reminder that life keeps moving, with or without your permission. Yeah, I said. I'm good. I picked up a red cup and tapped it against the cooler, calling everyone's attention. All right, I said. Before we dig in, just one quick thing. Everyone turned. I raised my cup. To knowing your worth, I said. And proving it. A few heads nodded. A couple hell yes rippled through the group. We clinked cups, plastic on plastic. The smoke curled into the sky. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like someone recovering from something. I felt like someone who remembered who he was.